You've got to be kidding me, I muttered under my breath, but his response came quickly. You're the one with the problem. Why haven't you paid for the accommodation yet? I stared at him, disbelief edging my frustration. Because you're the one who left me, just bring the money here. I'm not going to, he snapped back. I'm the one who was left behind. I never even wanted to go on this trip in the first place. My marriage to my husband, Nathan, has been on a downward spiral for some time. We've been married for 6 years, and our 5-year-old daughter, Ella, is the only light in this dark tunnel. Watching her grow day by day is the only thing that still makes me smile. But as for Nathan and me, we're barely hanging on. I gave up my job when Ella was just a year old, thinking I'd focus on our home and family. Nathan said if I wasn't working, I'd need to handle everything around the house, so I took care of all the housework, all the parenting, alone. When Ella was a newborn, the sleep deprivation was overwhelming. I begged Nathan for help, but his response was cold and dismissive. I can divorce you anytime if you have a problem with it. And just to drive his point home, he pulled out the divorce papers, already signed, folded neatly, and placed them in the drawer right in front of me. Every time something went wrong, those papers came out, a constant reminder that he had no problem walking away, and neither did his mother. Speaking of her, the doorbell rang, and without waiting for an invitation, my mother-in-law barged in. She opened the fridge without asking and helped herself to Ella's yogurt, not sparing a second thought for the fact that we were out of the house at that moment. I had gotten used to her unannounced visits, but today was different. I've got good news for you, she announced, not even looking up from the yogurt. I raised an eyebrow. Good news? Yes, you should look happier that I'm telling you this. Really, you're not being very nice. My son is right about you. I forced a smile, trying not to let the irritation show. What's the news? We're going on a trip, she declared, as if it was the most obvious thing in the world. Where to? I asked, already sensing the catch. That's for you to decide, since you're unemployed, she replied, her tone dismissive. I blinked in confusion. What do you mean? Honestly, you're not very sharp, are you? It's such a shame. She then explained her plan. She wanted to go on a trip with Nathan, but of course, she didn't want to pay for it herself. So, her brilliant solution was to invite me and Ella, expecting me to cover the costs. I took a deep breath, trying to hold back the growing anger. No matter how much I tried, it seemed like they were all working together to make my life harder. Who would want to go on a trip like that? Not me. Besides, we can't even afford it. Let's make it a grand trip, my mother-in-law suggested, her eyes sparkling with excitement. No, I never said I was going, I replied flatly. Let me think about it, I added quickly, ending the conversation without giving her any satisfaction. I wasn't making any promises. When Nathan came home that evening, he was in a foul mood. I could tell instantly that my mother-in-law had already filled him in on our conversation. I heard you disobeyed my mother today, he said, his voice sharp with anger. I was just being honest, I shot back. Really? Are you saying we can't take her on vacation? His tone was incredulous, as if the very idea was beyond me. Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. We don't have the money for it. My mother-in-law had called it a surprise, but it was clear she had already spilled the details to Nathan. What's so surprising about this? I asked, frustration bubbling up. If we're struggling financially, it's because of how you've been handling things. Nathan glared at me, his face hardening. If we're not managing our finances properly, it's your fault. I raised an eyebrow, unable to hide my disbelief. How can I manage what we don't have? Are you saying I don't make enough money? His voice had a dangerous edge. Well, it's not much, I muttered under my breath, but he heard it. You've got to be kidding me. He slammed his fist on the table, making me flinch. Look, he snapped, his anger escalating. I'm going on this trip, no matter what. You're the one who has to plan everything. That's an order, and if you can't do it, we're getting a divorce. The words hit me harder than I expected. Divorce? Maybe that wouldn't be such a terrible option, but then I thought about Ella, our daughter, and the way she'd be affected. That was the only thing holding me back. Reluctantly, I started searching for hotels. Even though my heart wasn't in it, I still wasn't sure about going, but the pressure was mounting, and of course, once my mother-in-law heard I was looking, she became even pickier than before, making demands that seemed impossible to meet. It was clear, nothing was ever going to be enough for them. The room had an open-air bathtub, a luxurious touch that only made me feel more alienated. My mother-in-law's demands were crystal clear. She wanted the most extravagant meal the hotel could offer, and everything else to match. I couldn't help but wonder how much all this would cost, but I knew better than to question her. If I didn't meet her expectations, the storm of sarcasm and criticism would be unbearable. So, I swallowed my pride and decided to act without shame. With that, I managed to fulfill all of her requests. When she found out everything had been arranged just as she wanted, her tension was palpable. She muttered something I couldn't quite make sense of. It's because I suggested everything to her. Honestly, it was thanks to my mom that you even got this accommodation. Meanwhile, my husband had already started his usual lecture over dinner, as if it was some kind of ritual, but after enduring this for years, I had grown numb. I simply let him speak, my mind drifting elsewhere. The only silver lining was that he didn't unleash his usual sarcastic tirade in front of our daughter, Nina. He wasn't comfortable showing that side of himself to her, a small mercy in the chaos. The day of the trip, I sat in the driver's seat, gripping the wheel. I had rented the car, and of course, I was the one driving. Nathan sat next to me, acting like a king in the passenger seat. My mother-in-law was in the back, completely ignoring Nina and muttering about souvenirs for herself. I had been driving all morning, with neither of them offering to help. The moment we reached a service area, I finally allowed myself a break, but only because Nina needed to use the restroom. I rushed her to the bathroom, hoping to get back quickly, but when I returned to the parking lot, the car was gone. Panic surged through me. I circled the lot, heart racing, but the car was nowhere in sight. Desperate, I called Nathan, but there was no answer. I tried my mother-in-law instead. "You came back too late," she said, laughing as if this were some kind of joke. "We left you." I felt my stomach drop. I was only gone for a few minutes. What's going on? Before I could say more, Nathan's voice cut through. "It's your fault this happened. You don't obey me. You shouldn't even be on this trip." "Was that your plan all along?" I asked, a bitter edge to my voice. "And if it was?" he replied coldly. I was nearly shaking. "I'm fine, but what about Nina? She's just like you, acting all high and mighty lately. She even talked back to Mom when she was complaining about you. She needs to be disciplined, too." "But she was excited for this trip," I protested, my voice breaking. Nathan's response was chilling. "I'll reconsider once you both apologize. Understand that, and you can go home now." And with that, he hung up. I stood there in disbelief, my hand still gripping the phone, as the weight of his words sank in. This trip, which was supposed to be a getaway, had turned into a nightmare. What now? The drive back from the service area felt endless. "Mom, are you okay? Did Dad and Grandma really leave us?" Nina asked, her voice laced with concern. "I guess so," I muttered, trying to hold it together. "They're so mean, aren't they?" she added, her little face scrunched in confusion. "Yeah, I think so too," I agreed, my heart sinking. "Are we going home?" she asked, her eyes wide with uncertainty. "Yes, we are, but I know you were looking forward to this trip." "Only because it's with you, Mom. If you're going home, I'm going too." Her innocent smile, so full of love and trust, was the only thing keeping me grounded. I hugged her tightly, grateful for her sweetness amidst all the chaos. I called Lisa, a friend who lived nearby, and told her everything. Without hesitation, she offered to pick us up and bring us home. Back home. Lisa settled Nina into bed and made sure she was asleep before turning to me. "What are you going to do now?" she asked, concern in her eyes. "I think I'm getting a divorce," I said, my voice steady but filled with finality. "That's good. You've put up with it for too long," Lisa replied, her tone firm but supportive. "Yeah, I definitely don't want a husband who treats me, and especially Nina, like this anymore." I pulled the divorce papers from a drawer, the ones Nathan had proudly shown me all those years ago, the ones that had been tucked away for far too long. I signed them without hesitation and handed them to Lisa to witness. Ironically, my mother-in-law's name was already written in the other witness box. Thanks to that, I was able to file them right away. 3 days later, after dropping Nina off at kindergarten, my phone rang, and I almost didn't want to answer, but I did. "You've got to be kidding me. You're the one with the problem." Nathan's voice was sharp, full of anger. "Why haven't you paid for the accommodation?" "Because you're the one who left me. You should have paid in advance," I replied, my tone cold. "Oh, really?" he shot back. "Then why does it cost $6,000 for the hotel?" "It's the result of fulfilling every one of your mother's demands," I said flatly. Get over there and split it. That's $3,000 each. There was a brief pause. Then I heard a woman's voice in the background. It's time for you to pay. If you don't, I'll call the police, she said, her voice stern. No problem. My wife will pay, she's on her way now, Nathan answered, sounding smug. Where is your wife? The woman asked, confusion in her voice. At home, Nathan replied, unaware of the shift in tone. The woman paused for a moment, then, she spoke again. I checked your address, and it seems like she's a long way from here. Excuse me? Nathan said, his voice rising. I've been friends with your wife since high school, the woman said. I was the one who picked her and your daughter up from the service area. The words hung in the air between them, and for a brief moment, I could almost hear the tension on the other end of the line. Without any hesitation, I shamelessly reached out to my old friend for help with the trip. She immediately offered me the use of the hotel she owned, free of charge. Back in high school, she had struggled with her future. Her family owned a prestigious hotel, but it was never what she wanted. As the only daughter, the pressure to take over had been overwhelming, and in the end, she reluctantly stepped into the role. I was the one who had supported her through those tough times, cheering her on when she felt lost. Now, years later, she said she owed me for that support and was determined to return the favor. When I told her she didn't need to go so far, and that she could simply stay at the hotel if she wanted, she was firm. You're not here as friends, she said, her tone professional. You're guests, and as guests, I expect you to pay the full price. All right, she added, turning to Nathan, my ex-husband, why don't you pay with your credit card for now, and you can settle with your wife later? I don't want to do that, he muttered, his face hardening. It's not that you don't want to, she retorted, it's that you can't. What do you mean? Nathan's voice rose with confusion. Your son's salary is $1,200 a month, and your credit card limit is $3,000 at most, Lisa replied with a pointed look. What? You mean my wife's been lying? Nathan's face twisted in anger. You said you were making a good salary. He fell silent as the truth settled in. Nathan was a salesman, but his salary was barely enough to cover his bills. While he did earn incentives for successful contracts, those were inconsistent and hardly enough to meet the image he projected. Don't tell me you're planning to pay with your savings, Lisa added sarcastically. The savings you're using for alimony and child support, no doubt. Nathan's face turned red. What the hell are you talking about? He shouted. I took a breath and spoke calmly. I filed for divorce. Didn't you always say you'd divorce me anytime? Well, I made it official. It's already submitted. So, we're not married anymore? He asked, his voice shaky with disbelief. That's correct, I answered, my voice steady. Wait a minute. I won't wait, I replied, cutting him off. In the end, Nathan grudgingly promised Lisa that he would pay for the hotel stay in installments, but I wasn't about to let him off easy. Afterward, I hired an attorney to file for custody of Nina, along with alimony and child support. We moved into my parents' house, where I felt safe and supported. It wasn't long before word got out. One of Lisa's regular guests, an executive at Nathan's company, found out about the situation. He made sure Nathan paid for the hotel stay in full, leaving him with no way to back out. As for my mother-in-law, I couldn't believe her audacity. She had divorced Nathan's father when he was in middle school and had always expected her son to take care of her financially. When she heard about Nathan's income, she called, begging me to reconsider the divorce. Her nerve was infuriating. After all she had done to me, I couldn't fathom why she thought I would ever listen. Nathan called too, claiming Nina needed her father and that we should remarry and live together again. But Nina was thriving with me at my parents' house, something he had never even considered when we were married. He hadn't been there for her before, and now he was pretending like everything could go back to the way it was. After the divorce, Nathan moved back in with his mother. His poor performance at work became well known among his colleagues, and he found himself feeling small and insignificant, but it was too late for him to change. The life he had built on lies and manipulation had finally crumbled. Next weekend, my daughter and I will be visiting Lisa's hotel. I've started a new job, one that's helping me lay a solid foundation for our future. It's been a while since I've worked, but it feels so much more fulfilling than the marriage I left behind. I've come to realize that the idea children are better off with both parents isn't always true. For us, what matters most is having a parent who is genuinely happy and present. That's what Nina needs, and that's what I'm giving her. This divorce has taught me a lot, but one thing has remained constant: my commitment to always put my daughter first. With her by my side, I know I can face anything and give my best, no matter the circumstances. As for my ex-husband, it seems like people like him have an endless well of confidence, but I often wonder where it really comes from. Maybe it's built on denial or arrogance. Either way, I've made peace with my decision. I know I did what was best for both Nina and me. Thank you for following our journey. If you enjoyed this story, please subscribe to the channel. I'll see you in the next video.